So Mike is leaving Cinemassacre. And I know I haven't done videos like this in a while because of doing all this, but let's talk about this one for a second, shall we? Okay, so first and foremost, I did a video a while back where I kind of called out Mike on something that he had said, and no disrespect. That's just the way I am. Sometimes I like to call things out. I like to make it known my point of view about things, and I'm not worried about how up on the totem pole or how low on the totem pole you are. If you say something in public, in social media is a public forum, you are then saying that thing in public and you are held up to the scrutiny that saying that thing brings. But I never once disliked him. Ever. Legitimately, that's a real thing. In fact, I watch a good portion of his videos and I tend to think that it's nice to have a different point of view other than James on Cinemassacre, and that is part of what I want to talk about here. This is interesting information because he is leaving Cinemassacre. He has stated, and James did an update saying that in 2021, Mike will not be coming back to help with things in Cinemassacre. That's not something he's going to be doing. Will we still see him? I'm under the impression, just out of my own thing, I don't think people are putting this one to thought. He wants to stop the James and Mike Mondays, and he wants to kind of focus on his own streaming thing, and he's going to stop things like, he's probably not going to be a part of certain things like the rental reviews and whatnot. He is, for the most part, leaving Cinemassacre, so I've heard, but he's also friends with James, so I don't think you've seen the end of him. And I think that during certain projects and certain things like that, we'll see him come up again in different things. Here's the thing. I've had a couple people asking me if it's wrong for him to leave Cinemassacre and now go after his own shit, where his popularity most definitely came from Cinemassacre. That's tough. It's tough because it depends on where you see loyalty or how you see it. See, Mike, and don't misunderstand this statement, is nobody. Just like me. Nobody. Some guy. But one day, James, who was nobody, made a video. And somehow, over time, because this is how random life is, he became somebody. Lightning struck. And before you knew it, his channel was up and running and he was a big celebrity. Literally, you could refer to him as a celebrity. On the lower scale, he's a YouTube celebrity, but he was, without a doubt, one of the biggest things to ever grace YouTube and go on to do all of his own stuff, and still very much associated with YouTube. But, see, James became somebody. And Mike, it's arguable, only became somebody because somebody he knew had become somebody, and then he tailed on to the success of that somebody. Yeah, okay. And I would argue that it would be no different that if somehow my videos took off like a bat out of hell, if people were really super interested in this podcast fucking vlog thing that I do where I just talk bullshit, if for whatever reason it got the right audience and it blew the fuck up and it took off and I was bigger than Rich of Review Tech USA, because he's a guy, his videos are very similar to mine. He just comes on here and he just talks some shit and he has a good time, and if he makes a joke, he makes a joke, and he's not worried about what he says because he's not afraid to voice an opinion that may be negative and at the same time be positive about that person whom he is giving a negative opinion. That says something to the guy in general, and he has amassed a following. And let's say for whatever frackin' reason, I end up blowing up bigger than he does. And then that, in turn, blows up the Fandom night and the Sentai review way bigger than I ever expected it to be. And then, all of a sudden, Scott says, I'm out. I'd like to focus on my own shit. Because maybe while he was doing the Sentai review, Action Talk takes the fuck off. And these kind of format videos, these kinds of things take off like a bat out of hell, like it was back in the early days of YouTube. Because in the early days of YouTube, a lot of videos, a lot of guys that made it big, they did this. They just did this. They just got in and they just talked bullshit, and that's what they did. And it was very much like they had a background or something, or maybe there'd be like some sort of video game thing playing, like the screen capture or whatever. They just talked shit. And they blew up. Happens. Nobody's become somebody's. It's the truth of the matter. And sometimes nobodies stay nobodies. And that doesn't mean anything. There's going to be a lot more nobodies in this world than there are somebodies. And those nobodies go on to live decent, happy, existent lives. Nothing wrong with just being a person and going about your life and living normal life. You get a dog, you have kids, you build a family, you do whatever you do, and you don't have to be famous for doing it. But somebody becomes a somebody. You trail off the success of that somebody. This is all hypothetical. And then one day Scott says, you know what? I'm out. I'd like to focus on Action Talk. Thanks for the opportunity. Do I hold it against him for doing something like that? No. No, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. Look, guys, I don't hold any ill will towards this idea. And I think it's because I did that earlier video that I kind of shit on Mike and said that very much Mike can be a dick. He can be an asshat, and was very much an asshat when he called people out for using the special features that were offered on games like the Nintendo collections and whatnot. And he's like, if you use those 4 times speed things for RPGs or whatever, you didn't actually beat the game and blah, blah, blah. And if you save stated and da-da-da. I get it. I called him out. I said that was a load of bullshit. That was some video game elitism. This is a hobby. It's not a fucking, it's not like it does become a career path in some people's ideas, but 80% of the time this thing is a hobby. And whatever you do with your hobby, if it makes it easier to enjoy it a certain way, like I take my figures out and I set them up. Some people actually hang up 100-something figures on the wall back there, and then not a single one is actually out of the box. And you know what? If that's what they do, that's cool. Just for the sake of, I wanted to see what that would do to our focus while we were sitting here. So yeah, guys, sometimes this happens. And I don't think that we need to hold anything against Mike. In fact, I would say wish him well. Hell, if for whatever reason you do want to go check out his streams, I don't tend to think he's all that bad of a guy. Have I cared about some of the streams I've watched him do? No. But that's not necessarily fair to him because I don't seem to like streamers in general. I find it boring. And yes, that even includes myself. Sometimes it's cool to be able to sit here and stream a game and just talk to like the guys that come in. And that's pretty much what I use streaming for. I'm never under the idea that streaming is going to do anything for me other than give me a chance to talk with some fans, because that's what I use it for. And even if it blew up and became a huge thing, I really don't think I would pursue it in terms of being a career or anything, because I find streaming to be a little boring to watch somebody else play a game that I could play. And then on top of that, there's another thing that kicks in with this kind of stuff that I've always noticed with streaming. When I stream, I find it to be distracting. I use streaming in order to talk to fans. And so if I'm live streaming a video game, if I'm doing game streaming, it's weird to me because like I'm trying to focus on the game or listen to the story, and then I'm not answering the fans, or then I'm answering the fans and I end up getting my ass kicked in the game because I'm not really focusing on the game. It's distracting. It's distracting in both ways, and I could just play the game and let people figure out for themselves if they like it or something like that, but it's not for me. But if you liked his personality, I think that's where streaming makes its home. I think that people pretty much follow streamers for their personalities. And if you liked Mike, maybe it's not a bad idea to go watch some retro games with him and give him support just like you did back when he was Cinemassacre. I don't hold anything against him. I'm not sure why people tended to think that maybe I would, that maybe he was shitting on James, and he hopefully... Because I got a couple of messages saying, hey, did you hear that Mike is leaving James, Cinemassacre.com? He's going to go try to make it on his own. After all that James did for him, he's just going to strike out and try to make his own fortune or whatever. Guys, come on. It's not all that. I don't see a malice here. I don't see a reason to hate him for leaving. He is leaving. It will be different. I am wondering if he will become, because I think they're friends. Of course they're friends. But I think they're friends like that are literally going to still hang out together. And I don't see any real differences coming other than a couple of shows are going to shut down. Mike is going to stream a lot more. And I still think he'll show up from time to time in things like Angry Video Game Nerd and whatnot. I don't see any reason that he wouldn't. I don't think this is all that big of a change, and I think that support for him will be fairly strong, and I hope he makes it. I do. Look, I wish everyone success in their shit. I do. Life is hard, guys. Yeah. No malice. Not sure why people thought I would have malice, but no malice. Good luck, Mike. Honestly. Get out of here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.